All right, Jay, over to you.
Bill Thomas is here.
Jay, you're actually on mute.
Welcome to our meeting. Today's thought for the day is, I think, appropriate. This comes from Martin Luther King. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? And with that, I don't think, other than our speaker, do we have any other guests that I'm missing? I don't think so. Okay.
I just want to say that John Duffin, who was here last meeting, he said he would try to attend, but I haven't seen him yet unless he's the iPad that's listed.
I think that's Bill.
No. Oh, okay. Hi, Bill.
I may go on just audio because I've got a really bad connection here. We'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Good to see you all too.
Okay, we have a couple things to do today, and one of them is my favorite thing to do, and that is induct our new member who happens to be our speaker today. And Cassandra, are you ready? Okay. All right.
She's having a problem logging in.
Oh, okay.
Just sent me an email.
Hey, Cassandra.
Oh, there we are. Okay.
There you go.
Oh, she's on? Okay, good.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So Joan is our membership chair. Do you want to say anything about Cassandra before we start?
Hey, Joan, you need to unmute yourself.
Cassandra, just wanted to let you know that we're all in admiration of what you're doing. Your relationship with your clients, especially now, is extremely important. And your relationship with your clients in Ethiopia adds a new dimension to our club that we truly appreciate. We are an international organization, and you bring to us, and we are proud and pleased to welcome you as a new member of our Rotary Club.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay. All right, with that, want to say a few words. First, fellow members, it is the responsibility of everyone to recruit quality, high quality members and retain our existing members to ensure continued success in meeting the needs of our local and international communities. Today, it is my pleasure to welcome new member Cassandra Bolding. I had the pleasure of meeting her first, I think, back at the Pyramid Club Mixer, I think back in January, which seems like 5 years ago, back in the day when we could actually see each other in person. So I really miss that, but I have fond memories of that evening and meeting you. And I certainly look forward to getting to know you more as time goes on with the members. Cassandra, you've been elected to the membership of this club because your fellow members believe that you are a worthy representative of your vocation and also possess the qualities that permit you to exemplify in your public, business, social, and private life the true spirit of Rotary. As Joan said, Rotary is primarily a service club, and with each member adhering to the motto, service above self. In addition to service, you will benefit from the strong bonds of friendship, not only with the members of this club, but also Rotarians worldwide. And I know you travel a lot too in your work and such, so I think this will be a great benefit. You will be joining members, 1.2 million other members around the world with 33,000 clubs in over 200 countries. So I'm sure you will find a club as you travel to, as you do your travels, and they will welcome you. By virtue of the membership in this club, you will be welcomed into fellowship in any Rotary club around the world. I encourage you to increase your knowledge of Rotary by participating in the activities of the club and those of the district and Rotary International. And to help familiarize yourself with that, we will have an orientation session scheduled, probably remotely at this point, in the near future. So we will get together with you on that. So I sent you the 4-way test. You did read it? Are you familiar with it?
Somewhat. I was still preparing for today.
That's okay. There's no test today. But I do have a question. Will you apply the test to the things you think or say or do?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you. So it is my extreme privilege and honor to induct you as a member of the Rotary Club of Philadelphia. Normally, I would ask our members to stand up and welcome you, but I'm not sure that works virtually, but maybe we can give a round of applause for you.
Absolutely. Welcome, Cassandra.
Thank you.
So fellow members, I present to you Rotarian Cassandra Bolding, and I charge you with giving your friendship and help to educate her on the responsibilities and requirements of being a Rotarian, as well as the many worthwhile programs and projects of Rotary. But thank you, Cassandra.
Thank you.
Okay. So at this time, I want to move to just a chance for us to interact a little bit, as we've been doing. This is important to us because we can feel disconnected given the lockdown and other situations, social distancing and such. So I want to turn this part of the meeting over to Lisa to conduct a fun little session with the members we have here. Lisa.
Hey everybody, I am riding a Hamilton high because, as you know, on Friday it was released to the world on video, and I thought it just might be interesting to know, have you seen either the stage version of Hamilton anywhere, or did you get to watch it since it was released on television? And if not, then would you just share what is one of your favorite productions, favorite kind of Broadway style production? I will say that I did get to see it in Philly, but I am especially grateful that now I got to see it on video as well, because I missed things the first time around. It's so well done. I enjoy the variety of types of music, and the fact that parts of it are like old school Broadway, but then with this very modern, you know, interesting lights and the choreography and the casting. It was just like so important, and I'm very glad now that the world gets to see Hamilton. So I am clearly a big fan. So why don't we go around the room here? We're going to go to Bill Thomas, and then Chris Crawford.
I have not seen it, so that's on my to-do list, obviously. I'm up in Canada right now. I just got in last week, was allowed in, and isolation right now for another 5 days. So once I get out of that, I'll be on the outside and free again.
Excellent. Over the in the past, have you seen a show that has really been enjoyable for you?
One of my favorites is Come From Away, which is a story of post 9/11 and all flights landed in Gander, Newfoundland, and the whole experience of people literally coming from all over the world and landing in a small little town of Gander. I think the population was 1,000, and it suddenly became 7,000 overnight. And it made me proud from the hospitality that was displayed by the people of that small community. And the funny thing that happened is that they had all this food coming in from all the neighborhood communities.
Oh, we've lost Bill. He warned us that his connection wasn't really good. So, all right, Come From Away. I recommend that one also. Oh, Bill, are you back? Bill, can you hear us? All right, we'll have to move on then to keep things going. Chris Coffer and then the Batories, please. Chris, yes. Did you see Hamilton or talk about another theatrical production?
I didn't see the musical Hamilton, but I read the book.
Oh.
I read the book about Hamilton. It's one of my many books on American history that I read. So haven't been to a musical in quite a while, obviously.
Okay, Chris. All right, thank you. Joan and Joe.
My favorite is Les Miserables. It's a long-time favorite of mine, a musical, but there's an interesting connection. I hope everybody knows that our Rotary Club has hosted 23 young people from overseas who have studied here in Philadelphia. One of them, a young man from Japan, Makoto Kuwabara, and his wife brought his wife with him, which was very unusual while he was studying at Penn. They had a little baby, Manaka, and now they have 2 children, Manaka and Chihiro. But here's the interesting thing. Manaka is the leading actress to play the part of little Cosette in Les Miserables. She travels all over Japan singing that part. It's amazing. She's what, about 10, Joan? 10 years old.
Yeah.
And her sister, Hiroka, who's 8 years old, is her understudy. So not only a wonderful memory of a Japanese scholar here, but his 2 children are quite famous traveling around Japan and singing parts in the major production of Les Miserables in Japan.
That's a wonderful story. Thanks. Thank you, Joe. How about you, Joan? Did you see Hamilton, or do you have another favorite?
Oh, no, I just reveal something personal, which I hate to do, but Don Quixote is my beacon, my shining star. I really feel like I'm always tilting at windmills, but I continue to dream the impossible dream, and no one will get me down.
Oh, Man of La Mancha. A vote for Man of La Mancha. Thank you for that. Yeah. Okay, Oscar, and then Patricia and Dr. Jeff.
So I did see it, and I thought it was really special what Disney did with this, because for me, I've lived in South America and I've lived out in Kansas in the Midwest. And so for me, Broadway has always been something that's kind of reserved for rich New Yorkers. So I would like to see, more shows become accessible like this, because, not all of us get the opportunity to travel and see these shows and purchase these tickets. And I think we all deserve to learn from these shows and to experience them.
I agree, 100%, Oscar. Thank you. I'm glad you saw it. Patricia.
So I did see it as well in Philadelphia, and Oscar, I went into the lottery and got 1 ticket in the lottery, which was really nice. I think the thing that blew me away the most was the diction. Like, I could understand every single word that they said, and I was in the back row, and it was just amazing that how clearly they articulated, especially with all that rapping.
And they speak fast. So yeah, thank you, Patricia. Dr. Jeff, and then Marva and Rosanna.
So Janine and I started watching it over the weekend, but we only got through half. So I'm still a little confused, so no spoilers, please.
Okay.
We did like it. It was just still trying to figure out some things that were going on. So we're definitely planning on finishing it this weekend. And for Oscar, one of my favorite shows was Spamalot, and you can actually see the source material called Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. Okay, Marva and Rosanna, and then Jay, and then Cassandra.
I haven't seen anything. I didn't see it as yet. I plan to. And the last time I went to Broadway was to see Stomp. You remember that? It's so old, where we're playing music from pots, pails, whatever. They would make music from stamping their feet and clapping.
Oh, yes.
You remember that?
Stomp? Did you say stomp?
Yes, Stomp.
Stomp. Okay.
SCOMP. So that's how long ago I've gone. I haven't gone recently, and I haven't seen this most recent. I haven't subscribed yet to Disney Plus, which I plan to do, so I can see it.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those who don't know, it's available. You could just get it for the 1 month and then cancel. That's what I plan to do. So it's accessible right now for $7, and that's way cheaper than a Broadway ticket, or for Hamilton especially. I think it's worthwhile. Okay. Thank you, Marva. Rosanna. Oh, you're muted, Rosanna. Can you click the Rosanna? Yeah.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We
can hear you.
I like also Les Miserables, but I also like Wicked, because it's a production where it tells you, everybody is beautiful no matter how you look. you know, and I thought that was special. That was a special message.
Good message. Yes. Thank you, Rosanna. Okay, Cassandra.
I did not see Hamilton. However, one of my favorite is Rent. Yeah,
Yes.
it's one of my favorite musicals. It's during an era that's very sad, but the hope that's kind of interwoven throughout is the thing that really connects with me.
Thank you. Yeah, and I just watched a documentary about Hamilton, and there's a lot of references to Rent, saying that Rent is sort of what started this new type of theater, you know, that younger people are resonating with, and that we have Rent to credit for Hamilton, probably. Yeah, thank you, Cassandra. And Jay, President Jay.
Well, you already know I have not seen Hamilton, film or otherwise. I haven't been to Broadway in a long time, but it's probably Cats, which was not much of a play, but the music's really good. And I probably like Our Town. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. And we lost your connection earlier. Bill, was there any final thoughts on Come From Away that you wanted to say?
My thought is it just made me really proud as a Canadian, the way that this little town hosted people from all over the world. And the amusing part of it, one of the many amusing parts, is that they had to find a place to store all of this food that was coming in from communities around Gander to feed the stranded passengers. And what they had a big debate at City Council about, should we close down hockey so we can offer the ice rink as a refrigerator, which they did. And it saved the day in the end. It was a great play.
Fascinating. Resourcefulness. Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that. Thank you, Bill. Okay, well, this wraps up our Getting to Know Each Other segment. Thank you, Jay. Turn it back to you.
Thank you, Lisa. At this point, are there any committee announcements? I do think there are a few, but I want to call on the committee chairs.
I had an announcement. It's going to be coming out in next week's newsletter. So this is like, you know, a little message over here in our meeting. But the Rotary has been invited by the Pyramid Club for a trivia night with the Pyramid Club. It's on July the 22nd at 5:30 p.m. So it's about an hour, 5:30 to 6:30. But it's going to be like a fun evening, you know, when we can meet and socialize, you know, with some members of the Pyramid. And I hope that a lot of us can join, you know, and sign up for this event. It's something that, you know, if we can maybe have a stronger bond with the Pyramid Club, you know, and that they can invite us to their events. We can maybe invite to some of our events, some of the members. It would be a good link between two clubs.
Great. Thank you. Are there other club announcements?
Hi, I have one.
I don't know if you intend to circulate this, Jay, but we got an invitation to the Beer Rotarians Enjoy Worldwide Fellowship. There are multiple fellowships in Rotary that suit your particular hobby, your profession, or an interest that you have. And apparently there are a number of beer drinking Rotarians around the world who have formed one of these fellowships. So we are invited on the 25th to a virtual beer tasting, and the Rotary Action and this Rotary Fellowship event is going to be held in 11 different countries simultaneously. So for those individuals who are in different time zones, I think the earliest time zone I saw offered was Australia at 4 a.m. So anyone who's in Australia or an Australian Rotary Club who wants to participate, you can just set your alarm, have that mug of beer by your table, and get up and move. But they use this to support one of their, what we call a Rotary Action Group. And a Rotary Action Group is what it says: Rotarians from around the world who espouse a cause that's unique to that group. and they will do all sorts of activities to support that cause. I need to understand which of the action groups they are continuing to support. But as far as I can tell, this is simply a fellowship activity, and you can either bring your own beer. There are 4 brands they will be tasting and evaluating, or you can just go along with is a beer expert, a sommelier of beer? I don't know, but it's one of those fun things. Since we're all trapped in here and no one's really going to bars, we can join virtually with Rotarians from around the world. So I don't know. I think Jay might send a link out to that. But think about that. We're going to have the bingo on Friday night, beer drinking on Saturday night. I mean, this will be a pretty big weekend. So let's take advantage of it and invite others to do the same.
Yep.
Nice.
I was thinking the same thing, Joan.
Yeah.
I'm not a beer drinker, but I can have a glass of wine.
Yeah.
Oscar, I think you had an announcement.
Yeah, just a reminder about the bingo night on the 24th. I put the link in the chat. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, we need some support on this. And this is an event that we can invite your friends and non-members to join us. Rotarians typically sign up for things very late, but it still concerns me. So we want to make sure that if you haven't signed up, please do so as soon as possible.
How many people
when I checked, it was like a half a
I'm
dozen.
sorry to interrupt, but how many seats do we have
I think about 6.
that have purchase tickets?
Yes.
And how many are we needing to sell?
50.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we really need to step up ticket sales. Okay.
Yeah,
Spread the
my
word.
suggestion too, why you brought it up, is we should get it out on social media too, when you have a chance.
I will do that. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, there's still time, but I'm just getting a little concerned. But just as a reminder, all of the proceeds are going to this food bank, and the district grant of $500 gets it started. So we know we have that already. So this will be a great opportunity to help this food bank in Kensington.
A question, Jay. I bought tickets online today, and it limited me to the number of cards I could purchase. And I was wondering if that's a flaw in the registration link.
Oscar, do you have a thought on that?
When you say limited, do you mean you only got the option of 2 or 4?
No, one or just one. One package of the $25 package and one $50 package. So I combined the 2 of them, unless I'm missing out. And when it said quantity, it was either 1 or 2.
Yeah, I think I remember that too, Joan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on there now, and I was going to buy two cards, but I can't do that.
Okay, let me check that out, and I'll get you guys an update soon.
Get it working.
Yeah, because I would like to buy some cards and invite some other of our younger members to get involved and give them something to do on the weekend.
Yeah, that's a great idea. If anyone else can do that too, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other announcements? I have a couple quick things. One is we believe that we're in the final phase of finishing the longer version of our film promoting the club, the Rotary Club of Philadelphia. So we have the audio portion complete, and we're filling in with images and things like that. So we hope to have this completed shortly in the next few weeks or so. And again, Lisa, thank you so much for your help, and I'll lean on you for the final version to help with that.
Sure.
I did sign the agreement with the Pyramid Club so that we can go back whenever that is. No one knows at this point in time, and I have the ability to cancel the event within 7 days, and that's how we will move forward with that. I was considering having an outdoor event prior to us going back there, so everything's still up in the air. But for the remainder of July, we have meetings planned weekly, all virtual, and that'll give us time to see how things progress along in the world, as well as time for us to think about how we want to step back to in-person meetings. So I wanted to make that point. All right, if there are no other announcements, I want to move to our report today. Yes.
I just fixed the link, so you should be able to buy as many tickets as you want now for the bingo.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Oscar, thank you.
Yes, you're amazing, Oscar. I have to say.
Anytime.
Yes. You know, and I don't want to embarrass him again, but he has been hosting these meetings since the beginning. So I always worry that I feel like we're taking advantage of someone, but I want to thank you so much for continuing to help with this.
My pleasure.
Today's speaker, I'm really happy to have, because she's a member of our club now, and she has a very, very important topic, something that I know has been on my mind since the beginning of the pandemic. Not only the economic aspect of COVID-19 and obviously the fear that goes with it, but also the psychological impacts on people at this point around the world. So this is a really pertinent topic. So Cassandra Bolding will speak today on collective grief and COVID-19. She's a very extensive bio, which I won't read the whole thing. You probably have a copy of that already, but I do want to highlight a few things. For more than 18 years, she has been an internationally certified addictions counselor, HIV counselor, and trauma specialist, program director, and therapist. And she is versatile in the field of mindfulness-based stress management and holds a master's degree in human services from Lincoln University. She is also a founder of Cassandra Bolding LPC, and also Diaspora Within Inc., which is her nonprofit organization that she spoke a little bit before about. I think she might today too. And that organization was established to counsel, train, and coach people of color. She's an exemplary leader and a compassionate professional who strives to see people live confidently. So without further ado, can we give her, Cassandra, a warm welcome.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jay. Oscar, I did send you the slides.
Sure.
Did you get them?
I did. So they all look good.
Awesome.
Do you want to just share your own screen, or do you want me to do it?
If you would be so kind, I would really appreciate it. In just 1 second. Thank you. And Jay, I sent you some Ethiopia pics. I thought that I copied Oscar on it, but I didn't.
Oh, okay. I can send them over to Oscar.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So as Jay mentioned, collective grief is a subject that I think throughout many of my sessions has kind of been interwoven in some way. People have been talking about grief. And, you know, so most times we think about grief, we think about loss of a loved one. We think about someone dying, and there's a finality in that. With collective grief and this type of grief, where there isn't a specific loss that you can identify, or if it's a series of losses or pending losses, it makes it a lot more difficult and challenging. So I thought that this was really an appropriate topic because many people are experiencing the stages of grief, like the anger, the denial, the bargaining, the acceptance, and also the sadness and depression. And so I wanted to talk a lot about that today and give just some insight in terms of what is collective grief, why are we experiencing collective grief as it relates to COVID-19, and, you know, what are some of the other implications of that? So with the slides that I have, I'm going to try to run through them and stay as close to the slides as I can, because I'm very passionate about the topic and I'll run off and start talking. So I want to kind of stay structured and stay in line with the subject matter that I wanted to cover today. So as I said, the subject is going to be collective grief and COVID-19, and some of the mental health challenges of living in a time of a pandemic. So we can go to the second slide. Doesn't seem to be moving. I'm not sure why.
How about now?
There we go. Yeah. So just as you can see, there are a whole bunch of words there like awareness, wellness, benefits, risk, mental health, grief, stigma, worry, trauma, post-traumatic stress disorder, suicide, crisis, psychology, self-harm, etc. So when we think about, you know, living in a time of a pandemic, when I saw this particular photo, this was something that really resonated with me in terms of my own personal experience with living in this time. And I think the very unique thing as a clinician providing services to other individuals during this time is that it's a shared experience. So it's not an experience that your clients are having, it's an experience that you're both having, you know, and you're processing your own and managing your own anxiety or depression or anger or sadness or just the feelings of uncertainty associated with it as you're helping someone else navigate that as well. We can go to the next slide. Thank you. So I just kind of wanted to, I know this is grim, but I thought that it would be necessary to include this in order to really understand the gravity of what we're talking about when we discuss collective grief. And so just some numbers this week, and these are pretty recent numbers from the CDC, they forecast that between 140,000 and 160,000 people will die by July 25th of this year. And they also estimate that there will be an increase in numbers over the next few weeks. And so that you're looking at several of the states that they identify that will have an increase in numbers over the course of the next few weeks. And these will be commensurate with the numbers, the totals that you saw originally. And these totals, and I know I don't have to say this to you, but as I'm looking at these totals, these represent people, you know, people who are dying. And these numbers also include children who are dying. I don't know if you saw the recent news in Sweden, where there are thousands of children, you know, who have been infected with COVID-19. And we also look at the numbers in Florida that have spiked significantly over the past few weeks. And so it also mentions that the states that were not mentioned will either maintain their numbers or they may increase slightly or decrease slightly. Can I have the next slide, please? Thanks. So when we talk about mourning our bygone lives, you know, that's what I think about when I think about collective grief. Like we're mourning our bygone lives, the carefree nature of being able to go to the supermarket without having to put on a hazmat suit, you know, gloves and a mask, and making sure that you're social distancing and making sure that you're not pushing your cart too close to, it's all of the things that we've taken for granted. Sitting in a cafe, doing my work, just walking down the street and connecting with other people, or, you know, being able to visit family members freely and friends and gather and have dinners and just be social. So it's really a mourning of the loss of life as we know it. And I know that that sounds dramatic, but it really is the case. We are mourning our life as we know it. And so when we talk about the stages of grief, one of the big ones is denial. And I hear a lot of people express, yeah, when this is over, we're going to go back to the way things used to be. That's denial, because there is no back to the way things used to be. Life as we know it is different. Even with many of the states going into green and there being, you know, the reopening of a lot of different venues like restaurants, et cetera, the outdoor seating, there are many people who are still very, very cautious. Very cautious. Why? Because for many reasons, and this kind of adds to what we're going to talk about further in terms of anxiety, et cetera. There's so much uncertainty around information, around the validity of information, whether or not that information is true. So there's so many different factors that I think add to, you know, our anxiety around COVID-19 and add to our feelings of uncertainty regarding when this will be over and what it will look like when it's over. So when we talk about, it's not just, COVID-19 is not just an epidemiological crisis, it's a psychological one. And so the situation provokes, as I said, anxiety, stress, and sadness. And it's also that time of, it's a time of collective sorrow. So we're all mourning that loss. And a big one that we're mourning, and we'll talk more about it, is safety. It's like, where am I safe? Like people who I used to feel safe around, I'm not sure anymore. You know, if I can be safe, if I can take my mask off. You know, I actually went to visit my mother recently in New York. My mother has cancer, and I visited her in New York. And she kept her mask on the entire time I was there. Now, this is a woman who we are very affectionate, and we hug, and I lay on her, and, you know, all the things, and we couldn't be close. And she couldn't feel safe, you know, in the space that she normally would feel safe. So when we talk about safety, it's not just the macro, like feeling safe in the world, but it's also the micro, feeling safe in our personal relationships as well. And so it talks about what is collective grief. And for the purposes of this talk, I thought this definition really fit, that collective grief is experiencing grief in the context of knowing many others are experiencing that grief as well. So we're grieving, and we're all grieving together. And we recognize we're having the same experience. And this is unparalleled. Like, we usually have experiences where there are pandemics, but they're over there. Now we're all experiencing it, so it levels it. Everyone is experiencing the same thing. We're all mourning and grieving this loss collectively. And so it's experiencing grief even if you don't lose a loved one. I know that there have been many, many times where I've heard about people who have died as a result of COVID-19, or just hearing about the mass amount of people who have been infected. And I cry, and I although I do have a family member who now is hospitalized as a result of it, and he was actually diagnosed on 3 separate occasions. I am able to feel and experience that sadness for others who have lost loved ones or who are dealing with people who are ill as a result of COVID-19. And so it's also experiencing grief along with or in honor of people who have lost a loved one. So I don't know if you see the little drawings of the different stages of grief. And so denial, I like the idea of it being the poker face, like everything is going to be fine. This will be over, and I hear so many of my clients express this, like, yeah, when this is over, I'll do, whatever the thing is that they want to do. Like, I'm going to get back to going to restaurants, or get back to enjoying the beach, or get back to enjoying my outings and my dinners. And then there's a lot of anger. There's a lot of anger because people aren't aware of what's going on, what's happening. They're not getting enough information or the correct information, or they feel that things weren't handled the way that they needed to be. And as a result, we have a global pandemic, and we have the highest numbers here in the US. And then there's the bargaining. Well, if I wear my mask and I wear my gloves and I do this, consistently enough, maybe I can, and fill in the blank. And then depression, when you think about the isolation, like I have many clients who have a pre-existing diagnosis of depression or bipolar disorder, et cetera. And when you think about the fact that many therapists will suggest, well, get out and, engage in social interaction. And that's something that they can't do. That's something that none of us can do. And it exacerbates, their symptom experience because they're not able to interact with other people, especially people who live alone. So this is a very challenging time for that reason, but also when you think about the adjustment that we're all making to living life inside. And with adjustment, sometimes there can come adjustment with anxiety, adjustment with depression, or adjustment disorder with both anxiety and depression. And then you think about acceptance, and it's like kind of this resignation acceptance, like, okay, this is what it is. You know, so acceptance is really just kind of identifying or acknowledging the reality of what is. This is what we're living through. And acceptance doesn't mean that you're okay with it, and acceptance isn't finite. There are different levels of acceptance that we experience and that we have experienced throughout the time that we've been sheltering in place. So next slide, please. So this is a big one, shaking our sense of self. So when we think about, you know, this pandemic and what it means, I know for me, it really, really shook my sense of self. And what I mean by that is that it really forces you to look at your attachments. And, you know, when you think about the prospect for many people, you know, the prospect of losing places, projects, possessions, professions, you know, all of the things that, you know, people are connected to or attached to, you know, and then you think about like how the frailty of those attachments, you know, things that are norms for us, things that we center ourselves around are gone. You know, and we have no control over, you know, what else is going to be removed to a degree, you know, or if we'll get those things back that have been removed. And so for many people, it's really been a very difficult in terms of them managing, you know, their sense of self or identity, how they've identified themselves. Because, you know, for many people, they've lost jobs, they've been furloughed, you know, for other people, it's been them having to modify how they spend money or having to make other modifications as well. And so it kind of helps you to recognize how we center ourselves around certain things or how we attach to certain things and how powerful those attachments are and how much they are indicative of who we are and how we identify ourselves. So I thought this is a really powerful picture, you know, when it talks about I am and like all the ways that we identify ourselves. And this pandemic has kind of shrunk all those things down significantly. And I think too, on the positive end of it, in terms of shaking our sense of self, I think what it has done for many people is it's forced us to reconnect with ourselves in ways that we hadn't before. And it's removing all of the distractions. So, you know, not having the outings for some people, you know, it's now they're getting back to reading or getting back to connecting with people in their home, like their children. Like I have many clients who speak about like having more time to spend with their children and actually taking time to do homework with children, taking time, you know, to have dinner, sit down and have dinner. And working at home has enabled them to be able to, you know, manage, you know, their time a lot more, you know, effectively, where they're able to have time to engage in family, with family rather, and with themselves. So for many women, I know you guys may or may not be able to relate to this, but for many women, like doing our own hair again and doing our own nails again, and, you know, all the things that we outsource, you know, our hair, nails, facials, all those things, and being able to reconnect with ourselves, reconnect with our hair, reconnect with our bodies in ways that we hadn't in a very long time. And so I think it had both positive and also problematic implications as well. When we talk about shaking our sense of self, we start to recognize what's important. It really shrinks things down to such a degree where you have to take a look at self. And so next slide, please. There's a continuation of this on the next slide. So when we talk about collective grief, so there's the word again, safety. So when we talk about safety, you know, from a couple different vantage points. We talk about safety like physical safety, concern around, you know, getting ill, you know, contracting the virus, but also safety in terms of our financial safety, you know, our financial security, et cetera. So when we talk about that, there is a desire for many people to create safety. So you have so many people grappling, like I see people who are working, you know, ridiculous amounts of hours because they're trying to hoard money, save money, you know, make sure that they have enough resources in the event that something happens with their job. So they're trying to establish financial security. You know, many people are putting themselves at risk, unfortunately, because they want that social connection. And so you find people gathering, you know, in places and gathering and doing things that aren't necessarily advisable during this time. So people are putting themselves at risk. And I think many people, like, you know, I hear clients of mine, and also you hear a lot of commentary about people talking about or judging people for doing that. But I think when you kind of really look at it, and it's what it is people are trying to create safety. They're trying to reconnect, and they're trying to create safety and establish safety and some sense of certainty, and certainty through what's familiar. Because all of this is very unfamiliar, it's very uncertain, it's very anxiety producing for that reason. And so people are they're grasping for something that feels familiar and that helps them to feel certain and safe. And so, when we're talking about grief and loss, we're grieving for not only what's missing, but the ways in which these losses are continual. So like we talked about in comparison to like grieving the loss of someone that we've lost, we can grieve the loss of someone that we've lost. And then we, move through those stages of grief, and we eventually find meaning. However, in this particular instance, it's more ambiguous because we don't know what are the other losses we're going to sustain. We don't know how long this is going to be. So therefore, it makes it very difficult for us to grieve and for us to cope and manage what we're feeling around us. Next slide, please. So talking about coping and healing, how do we cope? How do we heal? So one of the big things, when we talk about coping is adaptive versus maladaptive coping. So when we talk about adaptive coping, that would be some of the things that you see listed here, like journal writing, mindfulness practices, utilizing supports through, safe ways like text calls, Zoom calls, etc., exercise, as well as, finding meaning, but there are also, maladaptive ways that people cope. They use external measures to fix what's going on inside. Temporary measures like food, like drugs, like alcohol, sex, shopping, for many people, work, for some people has been a thing that they've been using. And these are all things that people are using to temporarily, medicate, escape what they're feeling. And so these are some adaptive ways that people can cope. So the first thing is we must name it. So being able to identify what it is that we're experiencing, we're grieving, we're feeling anxious, we're feeling depressed, like being able to name what it is that we're experiencing, because we can't heal or cope with what we won't acknowledge. And getting a qualified mental health professional or support group to unpack and give language to and process the grief. So giving, language, meaning like giving the words that are necessary to articulate what we're experiencing. So if I don't know I'm grieving, I just know I'm angry, then I'm focusing on the anger, but recognizing that anger is a stage or a part of my process of grief. And so being able to understand that enables me to more effectively cope and manage. Journal writing. So being able to identify losses and also ways to move forward or cope with those losses. Journal writing is also a tool that can be used to, at the beginning of the day, just to, I say usually use it as a brain drain, like just use it to kind of, as a stream of consciousness to kind of process, dump what's in your head out. And the same thing at night. And what it does is it gives you a sense of what you're doing to set the tone for your day. So days when it's more challenging, you go back to your journal and you're able to see, well, how did I start my day? How did I end my day the night before? What are some things that I've been experiencing? And the same thing, at the end of the day, when things are more challenging at night, what's different about my nighttime routine? Some people have had many challenges with sleep. So there have been sleep disturbances for many people. So being able to create a sleep ritual, being able to set a consistent enough bedtime to create structure for your day, bedtime, time that you wake up. Working from home, for many people, there's not a lot of structure. And for many people who aren't accustomed to working at home, it can be very difficult. And the days can seem to kind of meld into each other. So being able to create structure in your day by having a time you wake up, a time you go to bed, having a structured schedule, is also helpful for many people. And again, like with the journal writing, it gives you some insight in terms of what are some of the themes for the week, some of the challenges that you have, some of the reoccurring thoughts. And those are things that you can also, again, process with a mental health professional, or if you have a support group that you're attending. The really beautiful thing about this time is that there are many insurance companies that are not only covering virtual therapy, which some companies did not, they're now covering telehealth. and also allowing for, other resources that, may have not been available through that insurance company, like out-of-network provision of services. Like if you don't have providers in your network, they also are allowing for out-of-network provision of services. So that's also a really great benefit. And also another great thing is that there are many clinicians who, like myself, are offering either sliding scale, low cost, or, with resources I've been providing no cost, for many people who are in need of a therapeutic intervention. The same thing for support groups. There are several support groups that are free or low cost that help with unpacking anxiety, that help with managing grief and loss. So that's another provision. And I will definitely make sure that I will pass off information to either Jay or Oscar for different websites and resources that are available. And with mindfulness practices, meditation, yoga, grounding techniques are especially helpful now when we think about, that we are all in a heightened state because of what we're experiencing. And, anxiety, depression, it's in our bodies as well. Our bodies are definitely remembering what we're experiencing, what we experienced day one up until this point. And so meditation is something that helps with getting the amygdala, which is that fight, flight, or freeze or flee part of our brain, offline and getting back to the prefrontal cortex, which helps us to think rationally and be able to make good decisions and choices in terms of how we're going to cope. So yoga and grounding techniques can be mental grounding, soothing grounding, physical grounding. So mental grounding, an example of that would be meditation or visualization techniques. Yoga is, I'm sure everyone's familiar with yoga, but the benefit of it is that mind-body connection as well as breath connecting with body. And then grounding techniques, other grounding techniques would be soothing techniques, such as calling a family member or a friend who we feel safe and comforted by. Sometimes eating a little comfort food, but just things that bring us comfort and make us feel safe. And then the increase in utilization of social supports through like texting, calling, Zoom calls, etc. Those are things that I encourage many individuals to do. Because of that, we're all missing that hug and that connection with other people. So being able to consistently and intentionally do that is something that's very important. And exercise, movement definitely helps with managing our mood. So getting out and going for walks, etc. And then the last thing that's listed here is identifying the gifts of our suffering. That's a big one. And that helps to shift our perspective to one of gratitude, as opposed to focusing on what's lost, being able to focus on how our lives have been transformed as a result of the loss. Next slide, please. And so these were some tips that I thought about in terms of accessing information. We all want to be informed, and that's been very challenging for many people, is like kind of inundating themselves with information. And so one of the biggest things has been to assess readiness. And that's one of the big suggestions I have, assessing your readiness to hear or to read or to see what you're about to go on, whether it be social media, whether it be an email, whatever it is you're going to access, just assessing your readiness to do so. And then determining how much time you're going to spend. So you're setting parameters around it. How much time am I going to go on social media? And being able to stay within the confines of that time frame that you've set. Identifying at least 2 reputable sites. So for me, it's been the CDC and the World Health Organization. And I signed up for emails for each of them. And that way I can prepare myself to read an email versus scrolling through a social media site and just seeing things that I can't unsee, or reading things that are now in my head. So for me, it's been helpful to have emails so I can determine when I'm ready to review it and go on and review them then. And then also, I think the most important one is having a plan for what you're going to do when you come off. So for most of us, we come off and then we go right from that and we start talking about it. So especially if we have a spouse, or we have a loved one, or we get on the phone and we talk, did you know that? And we continue to talk about it. So we never give ourselves an opportunity to emotionally manage our emotional state after we come off. So it's very triggering. Much of what we're seeing, reading, and seeing can be very triggering. So having a plan, so maybe if you're gonna call a friend, calling a friend and just talking about something other than that. Being able to call your therapist or pray for those who pray, or meditate, watching a lighthearted show, like something, I don't know if necessarily comedy would be most appropriate, but just something that's light and that may be, you know, comforting or fun. Going for a walk, going for a run, working out. If you have a pet, giving that pet some love. But something that you're doing after intentionally to take care of yourself. So sometimes we can just kind of pick up our phone and we're just scrolling and we're not really paying attention to how it's affecting us. So before, during, and after, you're staying aware of yourself while you're accessing information. Because of course we want to stay informed, but we also want to make sure that we're mentally and emotionally okay after we come off. So next slide. Thank you. So I was also asked in this to incorporate other current events. And so we know that there is a lot of race-based violence that's been occurring in tandem with the pandemic, unfortunately. And so this piece is talking about collectively grieving as Black people. So racial trauma during the time of COVID-19. Next slide, please. So these are just some basic statistics regarding Black and brown people, and the numbers are disproportionately higher in terms of infection rate as well as death rate. I was looking at here in Pennsylvania, Black people represent a very small percentage, yet we represent almost 60% of those who are dying as a result of COVID-19. And we talk a little bit about here in this slide, the inequities. So systemic racism, and it's being embedded in all the systems, the healthcare system in particular. And as a result of that, that means lack of testing, lack of resources, not being believed as Black people when they go and they report experiencing symptoms and they're turned away or they're sent home. There are many stories, unfortunately, that have the same end, you know, folks dying or being very, very ill as a result of not being listened to, not being tested in enough time, and not being treated. And all as a result of the color of their skin. And so next slide, please. And so I wanted to talk a lot about it in terms of the race-based trauma and the race-based violence leading to the racial trauma. But I didn't know how much time I had to really delve into it. But I just wanted to say before I get to this piece that it compounds the implications of what we're currently experiencing. I know for myself as a Black woman who is a therapist, who is a mother, who is a wife, who is a daughter, who is a sister, it has significantly compounded my experience of not feeling safe. I'm a person who jogs, I bird watch, I take nature walks, I sleep in my bed, I drive in my car, all the things that, as we've seen on the news as of late, have gotten Black people killed. And so it is very challenging as a Black woman living in America and leaving my house every day and feeling concerned for my own safety, as well as the safety of my husband, my son, and my daughter. And so when we think about that in relation to COVID-19, and we think about immune system and et cetera, the stress can definitely significantly impact my immune health, which then makes me more susceptible to contracting COVID-19. And for many Black and brown people, that has been, you know, a significant factor. You know, racial trauma is definitely a cause of post-traumatic stress disorder. They have made modifications and will continue to make modifications in our diagnostic tool, the DSM-5, to further, because it was a very vague mention of it in terms of race-based trauma and its implications, but they're looking now to expand that understanding of how racial trauma does in fact lead to post-traumatic stress disorder, and also, you know, how they're the same issue. The racial inequality that leads to the issues in the healthcare system are the same ones that lead to the violence that we see played out in our world, unfortunately. And so when I was thinking about like, what can we do? Because I know this is very bleak and difficult subject matter to navigate. So I was thinking about ways that we can collectively respond. And so I wrote a little bit about what can we and public health officials do to address racial inequities in healthcare. So, you know, one of the things was collect and analyze and report data in ways that shed light on the disparities and the things that actually drive, you know, the solutions. So that has been a challenge in terms of finding information, research, that speaks to how does systemic racism significantly impact the service provision in terms of healthcare and other systems to Black people, and how that, you know, impacts them. I think we're having more of those conversations, which I think is great. But I think that now is more of a time of action, you know, like what do we do with what we know? And so these are some other suggestions in terms of linking people to testing and care for COVID-19. One of the things that the Black Doctors Organization has done is that they have made free testing accessible in Black and Brown communities, which has been really amazing provision. And I know that it has definitely thwarted many people from either, you know, getting very ill or dying because they had access to testing. And the other thing is training community healthcare workers in underserved communities to educate them and link them to free and low-cost healthcare. So being, you know, aware of what additional services are available in the community and being able to connect people to those services, as well as getting faith-based community organizations and educators, et cetera, on board in terms of being able to, again, access information, access resources. And then it talks about also linking more people to healthcare services that may not normally get, you know, have access to those services. And one of the things that I know to be true from my work abroad is that representation matters. And seeing people that look like them help them to trust more readily, because Black people don't have a lot of trust for the healthcare and the psychological communities because of, you know, the historical context. And so that's something that I think many Black and Brown people are still, you know, education, I think, is helpful in them being able to move beyond that and to trust certain institutions so that they can get resources and services that can be potentially life-saving. So this is what I wanted to present in terms of COVID-19 and its implications on our mental and physical health, and you know, in terms of that for Black and Brown people as well. Are there any questions, any feedback? This is a subject that I think is so very close to me, and it's still happening. So it's not like I'm talking about something that we've experienced and we moved beyond and we have all these solutions. It's something that's still happening. And there's so little that we know about it, and there's information that's constantly changing. So it makes it so difficult to even conceptualize like what's next, because there's still so much happening right now.
Well, may I just say, I just want to thank you, Cassandra, and say that your presentation today is so important and enlightening, and I'm sorry that more of us weren't in attendance to watch it, you know, live with you. However, I'd love your permission that we can post it on social media, because if you're okay with that, it just feels like this is information that would serve so many people. And you did a great presentation, and it's summertime and our attendance is often light. So I hope you don't feel discouraged by that, and know that we're gonna share your message with your permission.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lisa.
Sure. Thank you.
It made me feel comforted to be able to talk about such difficult subject matter with a smaller group because it felt more intimate, and I know most of you, so
Yeah.
it felt more intimate. So I'm glad that we're gonna have more people will have access to the information, but this really was helpful.
And
Oh, good.
I wanted to thank you, Cassandra, for this talk. I have Louis, I have a son living with me that's 9 years old. And so he has been doing, you know, his school by the Zoom, and, you know, there's no more children around me. I live in a high rise downtown. And so it has been a challenge, you know, for me to coordinate different things, different classes, activities while working at the same time, you know, myself from the apartment. So it is a challenge, and it is something that, you know, it is here, you know, this is something that we're living through it. Like you say, we don't know how long it's going to take, but it tells us how to prepare for this, you know, and, you know, as mothers with young children, you know, how to prepare for our family, you know, so that everybody continues to learn and grow in this different environment. So this, I really like this talk. Very appropriate, very nice.
Thank you.
I'm hoping that the trauma that everyone is experiencing makes people of all colors appreciate the fact we need to survive, or we're trying to survive, that we're all going through the same thing, and we have to support one another. This incident with the police violence in the city of Philadelphia and the tear gassing was something that we in the city have not seen ever, possibly, or maybe since the unnamed mayor, who was the police commissioner prior to becoming the mayor. And it's been startling for us, all of us collectively who know the history of this city, to see that violent reaction in the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection. And hopefully what will come out of this with this police reform initiative is that the monies that were supposed to be attributed to the raises, the $14 million to the police department, will now be reassigned, as is stated, to social services, psychological services, and physical services, especially for people in our underserved communities, which constitute 40+% of our entire population here in the city. You know, it's that old saying, which I just invented, something about, well, you know, the Revolutionary War was we all have to unite or sink together, but, you know, we have to float everybody's boat, because if we don't float everybody's boat, we're all going to sink.
Yeah.
And none of us want to see that happen. And we need to operate in a whole sense of fairness and equality and follow the principles upon which this city was founded in 1682. And that is peace, justice, fairness, equality, liberty for all. So hopefully those noble ideals will begin to manifest themselves with more positive action now. And we just can't let the ball drop. That's why it's so important for us as a Rotary Club to keep moving in that direction and help other people move in that direction too. We're linchpins in this, as are so many other nonprofits and other organizations that feel the same way.
Yep.
Cassandra, I just want to say your talk was amazing. This wasn't your purpose, but I actually feel better having gone through your talk, hearing it, and you know, thinking about all of these things, because I like the fact that you're deal with things on a holistic basis. And I don't know what your opinion is, but I sort of feel like all of these problems were there before the pandemic, but the pandemic sort of shined a light on everything. I don't know. Do you feel that way?
Absolutely. I think it definitely exacerbated much of it. And it, you know, I think a lot of it too had to do with people not having the distractions.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have the distraction. We couldn't go to work. We couldn't go to the movies. We had no more distractions. So we had to face it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So
I think too, this generation will not tolerate what the older generation tolerated for years because of social media, and it's the tech, you know, it's the tech generation or the tech era. So they see a lot and they responded. And I think this, I believe there's going to be some changes made this time around. Cassandra, your talk was excellent, as I expected. And I like the part especially about identifying your grief. Like, it's okay to say, today I feel crappy because I have to put on a mask and to go to CVS right up the street. Or, you know, the guy fixing my central ear, putting a mask on to let him in, or, you know, social distancing from him, and I know him so well. He's like family. So, and I get so depressed after I leave my niece and nephews after dropping off food to family members, and I can't hug them. So last week we just said, oh, what the hell, let's just hug. But, you know, we had masks on and gloves, and, you know, so yeah, it's a tough time. So I thought it was timely for you to talk, and you did an excellent job. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It was great. If I could offer the group one thing, I don't know whether you have a response to it, but when you were talking about we can't do things that we used to do. I know we used to go out to dinner locally at a restaurant every Saturday evening. So we sort of started a new tradition. I would make dinner and we'd watch a movie or something that night. So it still felt like going out.
Right.
So I don't know, it's a suggestion for other people, you haven't already done that, to think about establishing something new in your routine that replaces something you missed.
Yeah.
That's a great suggestion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, are there any other questions?
You know, I wanted to share something very, very quick. Just something came to my mind. You know, sometimes, you know, it's like when a flower grows in a desert, sometimes in hard times, great changes can happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something, you know, with all of these experiences here, you know, and that we have gone as a nation through, you know, hard times, a pandemic, all of the, you know, social distancing, all of these, you know, things that have been going on, protests, you know, to highlight a cause, you know, sometimes, you know, through hard times, you know, great changes might just happen, you know.
Sure.
And thank you, and I agree with that. And that's seemingly that's the wisdom of the day, that after every pandemic, there's been a change for the better. So we shall see. But as a final, not a final note, but as a note for kind of lifting our spirits, don't forget we have the meeting with Nottingham Rotary Club next Thursday, the 16th. And at 1 o'clock, we can reach across the ocean virtually and hear how our fellow world citizens are doing as well. It's an opportunity to kind of go outside yourself and hear something new, something that you can carry with you as a positive experience. So Jay will be sending around the registration again. We'd like to know how many of you will attend. We've got representatives from the Rotary Club of Key Biscayne, Florida, who would like to join us, in honor of member Gwen Engelin, who just transferred from that club. We also have Christine Recto, the president of our University of Pennsylvania Rotaract Club, who has indicated an interest in joining.
From California.
And she's living in California right now because she can't go to Penn this semester, possibly next. And we've got some Rotarians from Little Rock, Arkansas, who will be joining us.
Good.
And the Nottingham Rotary Club has members from Belarus, Lithuania, Greece, Serbia. So we'll have an international confabulation, which I just made up that word, but we should have a really good time. So let's put on our best American dialect so they can't understand a word we say. Not really.
We can't understand them.
Yeah.
Next Thursday.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you. Cassandra, as a thank you for your amazing talk, one of Rotary's successes has been to eradicate polio around the world. So we're going to, in your honor, inoculate 5 children so that they do not receive polio as a thank you. I will mail you the certificate later. Normally I would hand it to you right now, but can't do that. But I will send it to your home. So thank you again. Just a few notes as we end our meeting today. We have some member birthdays who are here. One anyway. Oscar, July 28th. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Oscar.
Thank you.
Alex Snyman is not here today. His was July 6th. He's actually away right now, but I want to have a call out to him. And member anniversaries. Joan Battori, 31 years in Rotary.
Woohoo!
11 here.
Congratulations, Joan.
Congratulations.
It's
Thank you
amazing.
very much.
Amazing.
Wow, one time.
If you recall, we did a little celebration last year sometime with Joe and Joan's contribution in years to Rotary, so that was fun. But also we have Jeff Cabot, 21 years with Rotary and 11 with our club.
Wow.
On the line anymore, but that's great.
Yeah.
Did we lose Jeff? Yeah, he probably had to go back to work, judging by what he was wearing. So, and that was it so far for the birthday. So, are there any happy dollars?
I have a happy dollar for Cassandra volunteering to do the talk today. Dear speaker, thank you again. It was good.
Thank you.
So that's my dollar.
All right.
I'll give 2 happy dollars. One is, again, for our speaker. Really, this was such a great presentation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Happy to have you as a new member of our club also. But the other thing, part of the way that I kind of have been handling the lockdown period is that I decided to create a video series that I've been sharing videos on YouTube and other social media, and I was hoping to tell you about it. And Cassandra, I'm actually thinking that you would make a perfect guest, so I hope you'll consider this. It's called the Help and Healing Hangout, and I'm interviewing experts on various topics to help people cope with the various issues that are coming up during this difficult time. So everything you spoke about today, I think, could really make for some good segments. So I'll speak to you offline about that if you'll consider. But yeah, so it's called the Help and Healing Hangout, and I would love for you all to check out some of the videos. I think I've interviewed some good guests so far, and more to come. And I'd appreciate any feedback or support, and I hope it helps. Feel free to share. It's all free on YouTube.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you.
Great. I have 2 happy dollars. One, both for Cassandra. One for joining our club. Thank you. And the other one for your talk today was excellent. And Lisa, I was thinking the same thing because I've seen your video segments. So great minds think alike. So, great. Are there any other?
Yeah, I have 2. I have one for Cassandra as well. This is one of my favorite presentations that we've had recently. And then I have one I'm celebrating, actually. I've been doing a lot of writing lately, and I found out this week that some of my writing is going to be published in a book called Mathematics for Machine Learning. So to have a guy that struggled through a finance degree published in a math textbook, I think is pretty cool. It's going to be published by Cambridge University Press, and they're going to use it for a university course at the City School of London in the fall.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Wow. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oscar, can we get you to present on this? I mean, that sounds like it would make the topic of a good presentation.
If the group is interested.
Oscar, yes, please. Can I get you to?
Oscar.
Let me pull my calendar out. And I could use some people in August, Oscar.
Yeah, sure. Happy to.
Yeah? Okay. We'll talk. We'll talk.
Perfect.
She's very persuasive, Oscar.
I read some of his posts, and he's a good writer, I have to say.
And we give $500 in honor of Cassandra. Cassandra, we are so looking forward to working with you, to serving with you, to socializing with you. You bring a light to our club, sorely needed in some cases, but we can bring lights to you as well. And let's shine together.
Right.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Yeah, very much so. All right, if there's nothing else for the good of the club, I think we can adjourn for today. And I know we ran a little bit long, but it was well worth our time. And thank you again, all of you, for joining us today. And don't forget Nottingham next week, 1 o'clock our time.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Have a great day.
See ya. Bye.
Bye, take care.